Some argue that if any ship were destined for destruction, it was the MV Wilhelm Gustloff. Originally baptized as the Adolf Hitler, its name was a tribute to Wilhelm Gustloff, a Swiss Nazi leader assassinated by a Jewish student. This vessel became a potent tool of propaganda, offering luxurious cruises through Europe at affordable rates, courtesy of the Kraft durch Freude, Strength Through Joy organization. The aim was to blur class lines, granting all a taste of opulent travel. Yet beneath the glamour lurked propaganda sessions featuring concerts and films. In 1938, the ship even served as a polling station for Germans and Austrians in the UK, favoring the Anschluss with overwhelming support. In part due to media praise, the ship's unsavory past, including its connection to German occupation, was conveniently overlooked. This ship would end up claiming thousands of lives. Welcome to Lucky Life. Today we are talking about the MV Wilhelm Gustloff, once a vessel of propaganda and promise, which met its fate on a frigid January night in 1945, claiming thousands of lives in what would become the deadliest maritime disaster in history. From the harrowing moments of impact to the chaos of evacuation, the survivors' stories reveal the stark realities of war and the unwavering human spirit. How did the MV Wilhelm Gustloff disaster happen? Well, let's get started. At noon on January 30th, 1945, the Gustloff embarked on its fateful journey. Shortly after departure, another refugee vessel, the Revel, arrived from Pillau, now Baltijsk in Russia, and transferred over 600 refugees onto the Gustloff using cargo nets and rope ladders. Initially designated to transport wounded soldiers and women with children, the Gustloff's evacuation quickly became a chaotic affair. Wealth and connections allowed the privileged to secure prime cabins, leaving the less fortunate to scramble for space in overcrowded quarters, including filling a swimming pool with over 370 female naval volunteers. Initially designed for a maximum of 2,000 passengers, the ship was now carrying over 10,000 passengers. On board, Captain Zahn and Captain Peterson debated the safest course of action. Zahn, mindful of submarine threats, advocated for a zigzag route closer to the shoreline, believing it would offer a chance to run around in case of attack, allowing passengers to escape ashore. He also pushed for maximum speed to outrun potential threats. However, Peterson, concerned about aircraft and the ship's mechanical condition after years of disuse, favored the deeper water route. Ultimately, the decision was made by 3 merchant marine captains to stick to the deeper route, overriding Zahn's concerns. Meanwhile, the Soviet submarine S-13, under the command of Alexander Marinesko, was on the hunt. Despite prior setbacks and facing a court-martial, Marinesko was determined to prove himself. As the Gustloff sailed, Marinesko spent nearly 2 hours overtaking it and the accompanying Loa, staying surfaced and undetected. On the bridge, as the captains toasted what they believed to be the end of the most dangerous part of their journey, disaster struck. The first torpedo hit near the bow, shaking the entire ship. Initially, many believed it was a mine explosion, but the reality soon became clear as the emergency alarm blared. As chaos ensued, a second torpedo struck midship, rupturing the hull and flooding the swimming pool area, claiming lives instantly. The third torpedo, however, dealt the deadliest blow, hitting the engine room and plunging the ship into darkness. Captain Peterson made the difficult decision to seal off the bow bulkheads to slow the flooding, inadvertently trapping many crew members below deck and hindering lifeboat deployment. Below deck, thousands of passengers found themselves trapped as buckled bulkheads jammed doors shut, while those on the upper deck struggled to navigate the icy, tilted surface of the ship. Amidst the chaos, the piercing cries of trapped passengers mingled with the desperate sounds of attempts to break free. The first glimmer of hope came in the form of the Loa, cautiously approaching to pluck dozens of survivors from the freezing sea, their bodies trembling from the icy waters. Then, a beacon of promise appeared on the horizon. The Admiral Hipper, the mightiest German warship in the Baltic, offered a chance for rescue. However, her captain, weighed down by the safety of his passengers, made the agonizing decision to bypass the struggling Gustloff, leaving over 1,000 souls stranded on the doomed vessel. As the Gustloff succumbed to the icy embrace of the sea, panic and desperation took hold. The rush of frigid water, the chaos of stairwells, and the crush of bodies in a frantic bid for survival, painted a grim picture of the scene. Amidst the turmoil, reactions varied wildly, from those who embraced death on their terms to others driven to desperate acts in a fight for survival. With the ship's crew incapacitated, Captain Zahn called upon his submariners to launch the lifeboats, but the heavy tilt of the ship rendered many of them inaccessible. Only a handful managed to reach the water, with tragic consequences. Some capsized, others remained tethered to the sinking vessel. In the face of impending doom, acts of heroism and selfishness intertwined. Warning shots failed to restore order as the struggle for survival intensified. Meanwhile, the majority of passengers, including thousands of children, faced a harrowing ordeal as the ship tilted further, spilling its occupants into the icy depths. In a cruel twist, just before the final plunge, power was inexplicably restored to the ship, illuminating the scene in a haunting glow as it sank beneath the waves, claiming countless lives in its wake. Those in the water fought to distance themselves from the sinking behemoth while bodies littered the surface, both living and dead. Rescue efforts were fraught with difficulty, with survivors battling exposure and hypothermia. Decades later, Captain Alexander Marinesco posthumously received the highest honor in the Soviet Union, commemorating his role in the sinking. Meanwhile, all 4 Gustloff captains survived the ordeal, though an investigation into Captain Wilhelm Zahn's actions was shelved with the fall of the Nazi regime. Debates still rage over whether the Gustloff sinking should be deemed a war crime, with comparisons drawn to the tragic fate of the British RMS Lancastria, whose sinking by German bombers was also shrouded in secrecy by Winston Churchill and the British press. Today, the Gustloff rests 44 meters beneath the waves, designated a war grave by the Polish government, its solemn depths off-limits to commercial divers. Amidst sparse memorials, an online museum stands as a testament to the worst maritime tragedy in history. Though estimates place the death toll between 9,000 to 10,000, the actual number of lives lost may never be known. Among the victims were innocent refugees, including countless women and children, alongside military personnel whose fate was sealed in a war they may have long ceased to understand. So, should the Admiral Hipper have rescued the survivors?